of physical health. It includes strength, flexibility, endurance, health checks. Well, that's talking about physical fitness. Talking about you do exercise generally. So that is how to do with strength, flexibility, endurance, exercise generally. And then you talk about nutrition and diet. It's also an aspect of physical health. Nutrition and diet. And that's when we talk about what you take, what you eat, per time. The fluid intake. I was telling somebody, you have not been taking fluids. How did you know? I said, I can see that you are dehydrated. And by the time he came, we gave 2 pints, we call it 2 pints of fluid. And he just got up and said, I'm fine. I said, you see, this is what you should have taken from water you refuse to take. Now we have to put drip. And it was okay. So when you fail to take the necessary fluid that you need to take, your body will demand for it from elsewhere. And when it demands from elsewhere, even your skin will cooperate. And when your skin begins to cooperate, people will say, what's happening to you? You are looking lean. Because your skin is not fresh. You are not looking fresh. That's because you have not taken what is adequate for your body to consume. Healthy digestion is also important. Healthy digestion, what we eat and how our body system digests it without constipation and diarrhea and the rest of them. Okay, so now we talk about alcohol and drug. There's another aspect of physical health, alcohol and drug. Now, this is becoming crucial because of young people nowadays. It wasn't even so popular before. We used to call it medication, but now we know that that's a whole aspect on its own. Dependence on drug, depending on alcohol and all that. When you are supposed to, even when we tell people, somebody was telling me, a colleague was telling me that, somebody had a complaint, and went to see a doctor. The doctor another doctor referred her to him, and he was talking with this person, and they were already getting out of it. She was actually in a depressed state. She was fighting depression. But apparently, this woman had been using some drugs before. And she was already getting addicted to them. So she wanted to keep using them. So she went to meet another doctor, and that doctor prescribed the drug for her. And she started using it again. And with all the side effects, she started manifesting. So to a large extent, you see people, once they see a particular drug like this, they will say, I think I like this drug. I want to be using it. One client came to me, and he came from Lagos. When I saw he has been exhausted, in fact, that he had not rested well. So I just gave him a medication that will let him sleep and rest. Because when we did tests, malaria, I'm going to fight this thing. So he started fighting it. He said, doctor, I'm going to escort you downstairs. He escorted me to the gate, and then I took off. I went off that night. The following day he came. He said, doctor, I told you that you cannot just bring one drug and to knock you and say, I didn't give you anything last night. There was nothing there. I just gave what we call water for injection. But he was just acting. But I knew that if care is not taken, you will want to, because it's a mind. And you will just feel like, no. I say, so people sometimes could become dependent on drugs. People will come and say, malaria, paracetamol. You shouldn't be so dependent on drug, And then, at the same time, you should not also break your drug. We have said that times without number. You shouldn't break it. You shouldn't say because they ask you to take antibiotics for 5 days, and you have skipped like 2 days, and then you now continue. You don't allow that drug to work effectively. My wife knows that when it comes to medication, I'm always on her neck. Anyway, for us, we need to know that there's a need to ensure that we comply to medication. Okay? Now, even for our children, and that's what I'm trying to say, we asked that you should give anti-malaria. And in giving the anti-malaria, you gave for one, twice, and then you stopped. Second day, kidney fever is not gone. It's because you have not been consistent with the medication. All right, so then the medical self-care, these ones are also important. Noticing minor ailments, identifying them, and being able to address them. Then rest and sleep. We want to emphasize this. I have another slide that talks about rest at various age, recommended. An average adult should rest for 8 hours. I understand that Reverend is telling us you don't sleep, yes. But at the same time, rest is important. And you need to rest your brain. In fact, and I think I need to explain this. That's one other key thing about resting. Now, I was trying to mention that earlier on. Your brain works. In fact, when you sleep, your brain is even more active when you sleep and when you are awake. Your brain does a whole lot of work organizing your system. In fact, studies have shown that blood flows from other parts of your body to the brain just to make sure that your brain works optimally to arrange and organize all the information you have gone through the day. So now imagine if you fail to sleep and rest, and that's what happens to students. Students that they are just reading, and they did not rest. They get to exam, they say they have brain block. That's because the brain had not been able to process all those information that were coming in. Sam Dave, you are familiar with that? Okay, so the point is you need your brain to rest and be able to assimilate and organize all the information so that when you need it, it will be available for recall at any time. So when you don't sleep, then the brain begins to complain, and that's when headaches begin to come in, and fatigue also. Because when the brain is tired, it begins to send that message to the parts of the body too, and they begin to also become sluggish. The response time becomes slower and all that. So there's also the physical health assessment. Thank you. The physical health assessment. That's the one we talk about, general health checks, which when it's okay, you are okay like this, you should do at certain time. And then we talk about disease risk factor assessment. That is, people who have a particular medical condition and they need to check. And then we talk about fitness assessments. Okay, so physical assessment, nutrition, adequate diet, we have talked about that. So now, because of my time, because I just want to go, please help me find mental health, because that's actually what I want to talk about today. Just help me find mental health so that at least I will go there and I will talk about this other one as Reverend has given us permission at some other times. Okay, so we